All right, so now that we've gotten everything completely clean, now we've getting ready to do the sanding. So we want to let the area dry out. So there's two different methods. There's going to be a dry sanding and a wet sanding. Now that this area has completely dried out, we want to show you the process of dry sanding. Typically, we want you to come back the next day. Let it completely dry and come back the next day. But I have an area here that's really, really dry. We got a lot of sun. We're here in Florida. It's 85 degrees. Perfect weather, hardly any humidity, so we're getting a lot of drying out very, very quickly. So what we've got down is we've got fieldstone, which is ASTM C-144 grade sand. I've made a line here, and what I want to show you is the process of dry sanding. So we have the pile that's right here, and you can see it's starting to wick up a little bit of moisture, but I want to show you the process more than anything else. All I'm doing is, what I don't want to do is I don't want to bulldoze it right over the top of it, because if I do, I'm going to create caverns where they fall through. So what I want to do is I want to get behind it, and I actually want to flick it out in front of me and keep moving it forward so that it's going out and popping in front of us into the joint. And then as it fills up that joint, you can see here we've got some areas here that are going to really take a lot of sand. So what I'm doing is I'm popping it out in front of me so that it's starting to fill those joints from the bottom to the top. Okay? So now the other method is doing a wet sanding, and you hear people talking about the wet sanding method, which includes hydrocompaction, where the water is going over to it, moving the sand into the joints and compacting it down. So we have the sand down, same thing that we've already dry sanded here, but we have the sand here, and I've actually got Brad with me today. And what I'm going to show you is the one person, then the two person method, right? So I have the water here, and what I'm doing is I'm creating a slurry. And by creating this slurry, I'm moving the sand across those pavers. See how I'm moving it across, right? So let's move it into your direction, and it's falling down into those joints. Now the key to wet sanding is making sure that you're keeping it out in front of you. Now with a two-person method, so I've got Brad here, I'm going to create the slurry, and he's going to move that sand around for me. So all I'm doing is basically cleaning up the edges. So let me go into here. He's going to move it that direction, and he's going to start to pull it towards him. The goal is to make sure that we get the sand to stay at around 1/8 of an inch below that chamfer line. So see how he's moving that sand? And all I'm doing is just cleaning it up at the end. So we're going to have Danielle come close so we can show you where that sand is supposed to be. So if you can come here, Danielle. And you can see this line right here. That sand is 1/8 of an inch below that chamfer line that's right there. That's what we're looking for. So I'm going to cut, he's moved it this direction here. I'm going to pop around on the back side here, and we're going to start going that direction. So as you can see, all I'm doing is just moving off the excess of that sand in his direction. You can see how clean these pavers look once we get going. All right, so here we are. We came back the second day, so now everything is completely dry. We've got a couple little spots that are a little bit damp. That's not really a big issue, especially with the water-based Cat 5 that we're going to be using here. So there's just still a little bit of dampness in a couple of little places. Brad's over working on a little area over here. But what we're doing now is we're coming back through and just looking for any areas that might be a little bit high. And I like to use a little small stiff bristle brush. And all we're doing is just checking to see that if there's a little high spot here, we can just kind of tighten it down a little bit and just make sure that all the areas that we're looking at, for the most part, everything looks great. But we want to look to see if there's any, like here's a nice high spot. If you want to come and take a look at this, you can see that, see how the little high spot of sand is sitting right here. So all I'm going to do is just take this broom and just loosen it up, tighten it up just a little bit to make sure that the sand is at the level it's going to be, and then we just come back through and blow it out. So this is where the details really matter, to making sure that the whole area itself has the sand at the proper level. And if there's some high spots, this is the time to be able to take a look at that and make sure that everything is exactly where it's supposed to be.